Hello, everyone, and welcome back. This is We Are the Game. I'm Michael, and that's Luke. And today we are going to talk about an exciting division rivalry matchup between the Arizona Cardinals and the San Francisco 49ers, who have some things in common coming into this game. I think this should be an interesting matchup. One of the big questions is going to be who's starting for the 49ers. They've really not had tons of problems with either quarterback, which they tend to do year to year, it would seem. Either quarterbacks or running backs, they seem to still be competitive no matter what. It's kind of a big game, I feel like, for the 49ers to not lose any ground on the Rams and the Seahawks, who are kind of gliding right along. What's your take, or what is your expectation? What's your take on what kind of game is this?
This is going to be these less excusable loss than last week if you're the Cardinals. So last week you're playing against the doing their best juggernaut impression, Seattle Seahawks. They look like, among other things, like they're not just a good team, a better team, but they're the right kind of team to really squish you. And then they did, right? We talked last week about how their pass rush has been amazing, and they've just been getting sacks all over the place. They dominated us at the line of scrimmage last year with a lot of the same guys, and then they did it again. You could look at last week and say, well, I mean, they had 5 sacks. 5 is good, but it's not going to end the world. Well, they had 5 in like the first half, and then they played prevent for the second half. They could have probably had 10 or 12 even if they'd really gotten mad. So hats off to the Seahawks, which I don't do very often, but like that was a kind thing for them to do. Thank you. Yeah. I'm embarrassed enough. So this week, the Niners have plenty of injuries, obviously, and guys like Nick Bosa being one of the premier guy on their pass rush, like that's going to be something of an opportunity for us. But, and we'll get more into injuries here in a bit, I imagine. But it's it's going to be a little tricky. I don't even really have a great like one-stop shop answer for that question. So, yeah, what would you do?
Well, man, I feel like every week I come up with some new idea for what the Cardinals could do left or right to compete with whoever it is, and it just doesn't work out as smoothly as I see it in my mind.
Yeah.
And the other thing, and you just mentioned that we'll talk about injuries at some point here. I think that both of these teams are very injured. I just don't think they've had the same results working through those injuries, which has been the real story in that division, because that division is absolutely brutal this season. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think there's so much now on top of injury that I feel like the Cardinals also have controversy. Mm-hmm. And I think that's not hopeful for anyone. Yeah, I'm trying to avoid. I don't think there's a way to talk about this game without talking about injury and how big a role it plays in the story of this game, and how you're going to have to try to change course. I think the it factor I would choose if I were the Cardinals to try to utilize in this game is the much maligned Mario DiMercato, who does find ways to be explosive. He is probably what you'll be having this game is the single most dynamic offensive weapon. I think that's a potential it factor because of some of the injuries, which again we will get to. One could say Trey McBride, but if I'm going into this game, I'm expecting the 49ers to play 5 on Trey. Right? Like, you can beat us any other way, but not this way. That's something along those lines. I also think Josh Sweat has had a great season, and I think he's playing off that edge with Calais beautifully. So I think if the two of them can stay engaged in this, they could really make somebody miserable back there. Brock may want to hold on another week if he's actually coming back. But let's dig into injury. I don't think you can talk about this game without injury. Let's dig into that, because I know I can't. I've almost brought it up. Marvin Harrison already. Like, that's a big part. You would think he's like the big linchpin in this. It's like there's no way to get into this without injury. So let's dig in a little bit further on that. What's your take on all that?
Yeah, I mean, really, like, zoomed out view, like one of the ways that I tend to measure injured, like who's the most injured team, is how much money do they have on IR, which is really just like of their contracts. If you look at a website like Spot Track or Over the Cap, I don't know that Over the Cap measures it the same way, but they'll tell you like how much of their contract structure for this year, their cap for this year, is allocated to injured reserve and PUP lists and exempt lists and things like that. And the top 2 teams in order: Arizona Cardinals, San Francisco 49ers. So this is the injury bowl. and
Ouch.
hopefully it doesn't get any worse. Now, I will say
Yeah.
that there's some optimism moving forward. Some players are starting to come back, but they're mostly on the San Francisco 49ers right now. So that being said, we just want to have a quick look at their injury report to show you the massiveness of like how many guys are out. So here we are. This is per the San Francisco 49ers website and their injury report that they have. Now, there's a little bit of optimism. As much as this is a big list with some huge names, Trent Williams, Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, a lot of these guys were full participants on Thursday. In fact, I think everyone I just mentioned was. You got guys like Ricky Pearsall, who was limited, but my understanding is they're expecting him to come back and play this week. Or at least there's a lot of optimism. Maybe he comes back in like a snap count. I could see something like that happening. Teams like to do that, especially if it's not a quarterback or a left tackle. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense for a left tackle to try to come back and play 20 snaps. You just throw the whole offensive line off rhythm. So there is a bit of optimism here. Now, I'm going to pull on some sympathy, heartstring kind of things or whatever. Let's look at the Arizona Cardinals guys listed on their injury report.
I'm braced. Oh, good grief.
I'm having to zoom out.
Yeah.
Right? It's a lot of guys. Now, there's no one on this list for the Cardinals that is as big a deal as like a Christian McCaffrey, right? A Brock Purdy. I mean, Kyler Murray's not even technically listed here because he's on IR. He's not coming back. Well, he's not coming back for a few weeks if he's coming back at all. So we are beat up, and a lot of these, as you can see, are not FP for full participant. They're just not practicing. They are not doing well. This is not great. The biggest one on this list to probably note right now is Marvin Harrison Jr., of course, which I didn't do a great job of capturing his name. There we go. But Marvin, him being out this week, they talked about it in the news that he had appendicitis and he had a surgery to remove it. We don't know how long he's going to be out, but there's optimism that he'll be able to come back at some point this season. It could be next week. It could be a few weeks. I guess something like injured reserve is on the table, but you would have thought they would have done it by now if they were going to do it, as it is Friday, 2 days before the game. So, yeah, we are very beat up. And I'm not saying that the Niners are not also beat up. It's just that we have been hit with that hammer, it would seem, even harder right now. So that is going to be a big thing. It's not just because they're probably about to be healthier than they even were in the first matchup against them, which they also won. So we'll see. What do you think about all these injuries?
It's depressing. One of my first thoughts was, man, I wish I had paid more attention to this before I mentioned Josh, since he didn't practice. There's a few people I was like, oh man, I was gonna talk about that. That's depressing. The other one that's on there is Bam Knight. It's like every running back y'all have in, it goes right back out. I guess Michael Carter's back, but it's like if it's you in this game coming up, how do you approach who gets the ball in running situations? Because I don't think you have the wide receiver core out there, in particular this game, where you can just throw all the time, right? So, I mean, they're going to cover Trey. So it's like you got to go somewhere else. You got to have a more broad game plan than that. If you were handing the ball to someone, how would you handle that with what you're expecting to have going into this game? You got to have some kind of balance.
We do. I will say San Francisco's been better against, I believe, better against the run than they have against the passes, at least as far as win rate goes and things like that. So for running the ball, keeping them honest, I think Amari might be the right kind of guy. He had a solid game against them last year, I believe, when he played them. I can't remember his exact stats. A lot's happened since then, but he has played them before and played fairly well. So a 1-2 punch of him and Michael Carter might be like the least billboard worthy advertisement ever, but they can be effective enough in that game. But then you're giving the ball more. I think I would be giving the ball more to DeMercado in that. Yes, he's more the breakout guy that I'm looking to, he's going to have 7 runs for 12 yards and then 1 run for 50 yards. He's that guy. I don't know that I really fear him between the gaps. So it was one of the things that Bam Knight's been really good at. And maybe Bam will be able to come back and play this week. He's not like he's out. Sure. He's just been limited. So not trying to wish that on him, Ricky Bobby style. But yeah, that's who I'd probably go with.
That makes perfect sense to me. And I agree with you. I think, it's funny to think that he's the bigger of those 2 running backs. So I would go with that either, as well. I'm hoping he gets. It could be an interesting redemption game for DeMercado, who had one moment that has kind of been the poster for his season. I would love to see him get an opportunity to come back and make that all right. It's hard to imagine they don't have a game plan that runs through Trey McBride.
Yep.
You know, like something on the offensive side that goes through him. But I also kind of would think that they dig deep in the playbook and try to run some more, for lack of better terms, creative plays, maybe to get some things going. Would you be shocked to see that?
A little. That like crazy double end around kind of things, jet sweeps and things like that. That hasn't really been their MO. They will occasionally run like an end around with Greg Dortch, that kind of thing. Yeah. But it hasn't been particularly successful when we've done it. Our blocking has been really bad this year. And then you've got guys like, you know, you've got both of our right tackles on the injury report here.
Yeah.
And that's not great. For things like that, I just worry. Our best blocking tight end has been out since like week 2 or week 3, Tip Ryman. So I don't know, trickery, things like that. I'm not super worried about. If I'm San Francisco, I'm not super worried about that.
I wouldn't be worried about either. Yeah.
What I would be worried about is even with the issues at the offensive line, Jacoby Brissett has shown a willingness to stay in the pocket. So yes, Marvin Harrison's going to be out, but you'll probably have Michael Wilson step up and get more targets. See how that goes. You'll get guys like Greg Dortch. They're trying to catch him in space, things like that. And obviously, the aforementioned Trey McBride is going to be huge. Now, yeah, they're probably going to try to shut him down as hard as they can. But if you can't get pressure on Jacoby Brissett, and I think they only sacked us once the first time we met, if you can't get pressure on him, then Jacoby Brissett can give you something of a long day. So We'll see. But yeah, that's kind of how I see this going. It's like they're going to probably try to take away Trey, but they have not been getting consistent pass rush this season. Now we're a great get right game for a pass rush, but I don't think they have the horses right now, so to speak. So yeah. We'll see.
Yeah, it's weird to think that I'm less concerned with that in this game than other teams, and you know they have a great reputation in general as to what they can do there. Your secondary, I was trying to look back through this and see if there was hope there on the secondary front with the team that has had such success in the air all season with 2 different quarterbacks. You know, they have not been what I would have expected, especially given what they did last year with multiple running backs, was that they were going to be more of a run balanced team than a passing balanced team. It definitely has not played out that way. Well, I mean, it has. Like their leading receiver is said running back, but yeah, I guess in that would that be your biggest concern? Is the passing game going into this, or more the running game?
For me, the biggest worry on the defensive side of the ball is actually just Kittle. So they're going to move the ball. They're going to move the ball from the 20 to the 20, or what's now more like the 30 to the 20. And they're going to do that. You know, if Ricky Pearsall plays, that helps. Christian, you talk about their run game, and you're right. I think Christian McCaffrey is a top 10 both rushing yards and receiving yards. And I don't know how often that's happened in history, but that's wild. He's got because of Jonathan Taylor, he's got a very under the radar, pretty darn good season going on. So he's the guy. Like, you're going to give up those yards. I'd say I'd be worried about that. But Kittle is their red zone target historically. And so that's the guy. I'm focusing on him at that point. See if you can make, if you can force a maybe somewhat rusty Brock Purdy into making a mistake or two, then okay, cool. But otherwise, like, you're going to have to just cinch up in the red zone, try to keep him to field goals. It worked relatively well in the first game. I know we lost that one, but we were able to keep the score down. And I think that script is going to have to continue. I have some optimism for Max Melton to be able to come back, but Will Johnson looks like he's still dealing with it. So maybe, just maybe, but I think we should expect one or the other of them at least to be out in this game.
Yeah, it'll be a very interesting game to see how, like you called it, the injury bowl, the hospital bowl. It's just funny how division games, it doesn't even matter who's playing. Those always seem to turn out to be interesting games. The exception may be last week's games where both of these teams were on the losing side. They both got kind of manhandled by their opposition. I still expect this one to be kind of a closer game. I could be wrong, but I kind of still expect this one to be a competitive game between the two. But we'll have to wait until Sunday to find out. Y'all still have the 4 o'clock window. So that'll be very interesting to see. Hopefully the Cardinals can pull one out here. We'll have to check back in on Sunday. But with that, let's go ahead and wrap it up. Thanks everybody for joining. We appreciate all of our subscribers who've already subscribed. We're on our way to 200. So please join us and join us again. Give us a like or subscribe and join us in the comments. We love hearing from you guys, and we'll talk to you next time.